Hello, I'm Airpack1, and welcome to my series on painting aircraft with Blender. I hope I can do this some justice, and hope you can learn something from it. There is so much stuff about Blender and how to use Blender for various things on the internet. It's so easy to get lost in all the confusion. The biggest thing about everything that's available on the web is getting you prepared to do 3D modeling. And Blender's like any other software program. You're probably going to only use 20% of the program. So you kind of have to pick and choose what you want to learn, what you don't want to learn. I tend to learn what I need, and whether I need it or not, I scrap the rest of it. But anyway, the biggest thing that you need to learn about Blender, and this is Blender that I have up on the screen, by the way. This happens to be version 3.0. Some folks are still using older versions, and that's still fine. I just happen to like the most current things, and in fact, I think 3.1 beta just came out. Haven't tried the app on it yet, but leading into that, there is one tool that you're going to have for this to work, and it's an app, and it is called, scroll down here to it, Import Export GLTF 2.0 format for MSFS. If you notice right above it, there's the identical same tool or app, only it doesn't have the MSFS underneath of it, and it will not work. You have to have this tool. If you open it, it gives you some information and some stuff to help you in your process. Anyway, I won't get too much into that. That's a little bit above right now, but I'm going to twirl this close. And once it's installed, it can be found under resources. Anyways, you can download that app from Github, and I believe this is the most current right now. I do understand that Azobo has gotten involved with this tool, and they are working on updating it and bringing it up to, I guess, their standards. I haven't seen much about it. My last attempt to use it didn't work. Anyways, GitHub, and you can do a search for it on GitHub, or you can just copy this link up here as I have it pictured on the screen. That'll take you to it, and if you download that and open it up, there are lots of videos on the internet about how to install this tool. It's really pretty easy, but like I said, do a search on installing apps into Blender, and they'll tell you exactly how to do it so that you do it right the first time. And also, this app, there are some versions of it floating out around that don't work. So if you try to use this once you've installed it, and either doesn't show up in your apps, or it doesn't import an aircraft, then it's a good possibility that either you don't have the right app, or you've installed it correctly or something. But go back and work on that, because you absolutely have to have this app for this to work in Blender. I'm going to close out of here. Okay, close this down. Blender is a 3D modeling program. Modeling, animating, painting, it's got it all. And a lot of stuff that you see, a lot of cool stuff that people on the internet do videos for, is people rendering out things in what's called a render engine. And those engines are designed to render out the 3D objects into really cool things like you see in Flight Simulator, or like some of your movies and stuff. I remember back in the early stages, there were whole buildings full of computers that were just dedicated to hours and hours and hours and hours of rendering out scenes for a movie. A lot of that's improved. Things have gotten faster and better and easier anyway. So when you enter into a training video, you have to consider what your objective is. My objective is just to paint aircraft. I like to paint aircraft. I have no desire to model anything. I used to in my earlier years. I learned on some older software, and I built a few things and rendered them, and I even got into a little bit of animating, and that's really hardcore on animating and setting up stuff so that animators can animate stuff. But anyways, our purpose is painting aircraft. I could spend hours and hours and hours trying to teach you how to use the layout and how to move around in 3D space, but there's some folks I want to introduce you to that do that a whole lot better than me, and I'll go down the line from what I consider is the easiest to a little bit more innate, but you will use this guy later on. The first one is going to be Ryan King. He's fairly easy to listen to. He does a great job, I think, anyways, in my personal opinion. And if you go to his site, and here's the link up here, Ryan King Art, and you go to playlists, and you come down here, he's got Blender Complete Beginner Tutorial Series, and you can click on that.
Everyone, my name's Ryan
and
King,
let me turn this off. And if you want to go through the introductory video, you can. He talks a lot about how he's going to build this scene and stuff. I don't know if you're interested in doing that or not, but the meat and potatoes of what you need in order to paint aircraft are in these two videos here. Part 1, Blender Beginner Tutorial Basic Navigation, and Part 2, the tutorial, the interface. And what this is going to do is going to teach you how to grab things, how to move around, select things, move those where you want to, and so forth. Anything else, unless you want to get into modeling, I would avoid it because it can just get overwhelming really quick. So and he's going to teach you how to set these windows up the way you want to have them set up. It's really easy to understand in the perspective in which he presents it. Anyway, I'll go back. The next is Grant Abbott. Grant Abbott is a professional video maker. His series are excellent. He's got a whole new collection now for 3. The complete beginners for Blender 3. Let me turn this off. He's easy to listen to. However, he's going to start you right off the bat in teaching you, and his method of teaching you is to have you actually put together some 3D objects and move them around, texture them, some things like that. That can be a little bit in-depth if you don't want to go that far, but I still highly recommend him and keep this on file because he has a ton of excellent videos on using Blender. And once you get to the point where you are fairly comfortable with using Blender to paint your aircraft and you want to expand out into other things, then I highly recommend this. This guy is great. Up next, this is the Blender Guru, and I don't think there's too many people out there that haven't delved into Blender that haven't seen this guy. He is the Blender Guru. He started all this when it first came out, and he's been going ever since. And he started out the series doing this donut, and he's another one where he starts you out in learning the interface and everything else by building this donut, and you take it all the way up to doing different things with it, including having millions of donuts in your viewport. So, cruise around him, take a look at him. He's easy to listen to as well. Got a lot of information out there. Just pick and choose. Right now, all you need to know is how to set up Blender and how to use the interface and how to move stuff around in Blender. That's what you're going to be doing. Last but not least is Default Cube. And Default Cube, this guy does a whole lot of stuff, just out there stuff. And most of it is designed to be used in render engines. Like Blender uses two different render engines, Cycles and Eevee. Eevee is the newest, the most powerful, but it's got some growing pains, and there's some things that we do in our aircraft painting that you cannot do in Eevee. You can only do it in Cycles. So anyway, what the important part to him is, at some point in time, you're going to want to start getting into using nodes and how those nodes are used. And he has an excellent video setup on procedural nodes. He will teach you all about using procedural nodes, from the get-go, starting right off with here with level 1, the full course down here at the bottom. He'll run you all the way through how to use those, and I'll explain those a little bit here in a second. Anyways, I just wanted to show you those. To me, these are the best people I have found, and I've spent several years going through different videos from different people from Blender, and these are the ones that I personally like, my personal opinion. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and close out. We don't need this anymore. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and open up a template so that you kind of get an idea of kind of what we're doing. And right now, I just redid a set of templates. I'm going to not save, cancel. I want to file. I'm going to open, don't save, and take my arrow key and go up to the blend files. Let's see, I'm already on that. That's the enter. I want the this is a Blender template that I built for the Kit Fox, and I'm going to go ahead and open that right now so that you can see what it's all about if you haven't already. This is Parallel 42's Kit Fox 2. It's basically the unpainted white version of the Freedom Fox, Trent Palmer's Freedom Fox. They added this into the kit, into the mix, so that people could put their own liveries and stuff on it and do painting. I just happen to have left everything here, the tents here and all that stuff. What I can do is I can click on that right now and just hit the delete key. Same way with all this stuff down here, because I don't need it for what I'm going to show you. And I just deleted those items. They're not gone from the program unless I save it that way. They're just kind of, I could have hid them, but the way I work, when I bring things back that I'm painting on, I'll bring all that back with it. So I just deleted it. It was easier for me. And in most cases, I just delete that stuff anyways, because I paint it some other way. When you learn how to use the keypad to manipulate, you see all these lines that have popped up. What I just did was I hit the 3 key, and that gave me a complete side view of the aircraft. I'm going to go up here, let's see. I'm in layout mode, so I'm going to click on the fuselage right here. And I'm also going to click on the nose, because I need the nose, both pieces, and I need the tail. That's a shift click. And so I clicked on the main, the fuselage, and then I clicked each one holding down the shift key to have them show up. And then I'm going to use what they call a hotkey, which is a combination of keys. And I'm going to hit Shift H, and I'm going to hide everything that I don't want to be visible. It's still flat plane to me. I'm looking at it flatly. And now I want to paint a simple stripe across this aircraft. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the texture paint here. Again, I'll have to hit the 3 key to get that sideways. This big white spot that's next to me, I'm going to use the middle mouse button, and I'm scrolling to make that smaller. And this is basically the UV. And these two spots where there's a checkerboard, that's indicating what I have active right now, which happens to be the rudder. And these little gray boxes here, I'm pushing down on the middle button and dragging, and these are indicating that, you know, that is the UVs for that rudder. You can hide those. If I use the scroll button and scroll across this bar up here at the top, let's see, come on, it works. Sometimes it works and sometimes it don't for me. You're not gonna work. It figures. Alright. Well, always when you're filming, right? Alright. Let's just get off of this. Let me go back into render mode, or I'm sorry, back into layout. I'm going to select on the fuselage. I'll go back to my texture paint mode. Alright, and I'm on the fuselage. By the way, I'm using the scroll button to zoom in and out. I used the number 3 on the 3 pad. I'm going to go up here to where it says stroke, right here on this little bar up at the top. I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to go from space, which is basically saying that I have a free brush that I can move around paint with. I'm going to go and change that and open up the line. This is the line brush, and there's a couple of places where you can select that. Even down here below your palette, you can select that. I'm also going to go select the color. Let's just move this over and choose white. And if I use the bracket keys, I can change. You see that circle is changing the size. I'm hitting the left bracket key. If I hit the right bracket key, I can make it really huge. That's my brush size. So I want to put a nice straight line right across the fuselage. So if I start on this green line right here and kind of center it, I could use my scroll button and scroll up a little bit larger. I want to go past the side of the fuselage a little bit, try to get it centered on that, and I'm going to draw straight across, and I can't see the other side, so it's difficult to line up. But I think you'll get the idea. See that nice straight line that it just did across my fuselage? Now I could drop down and select one of these other lines. If you get really close to the edge, you start having problems. Let me open this up a little bit and bring it down. There we go. And let's do a line from there to say that one. Okay. Now, you see how easy that was? Now what's nice about Blender is I could go back into the layout mode. I can select the top of the fuselage, go back into texture paint, and I could come back here on that green line. Let's see, I'm going to push down on the middle mount button. No, sorry. Hit 3 again to center it. Let me grab the hand, and I'm going to move this back a little bit. I'm going to go back to that little green button. Now I have it zoomed in or out, so my brush size isn't going to change. I can center on that green stripe and come across here, and it's off a little bit. Control Z to undo it. Again, I can go just above it a little bit, and I'm trying to judge. That looks better. Now I can do the same thing. I would have to go back out to layout. I can go select this lower part of the cowling and then go back into texture paint. Again, find the line up on what I've already got painted. And for what I'm showing you, that's close enough. Go back. I could grab the hand. There's some hotkeys you can use to move around. Always hit the 3 key, bring it back. Alright. And I'm zoomed out. Move back over here. I'm going to center on that black line. Let's see. Nope, I can't do that. I got to go back to layout. And now I'm going to select the rudder. Then I'll go back to paint. I'm going to center my little white dot on that line and bring her straight across. And you see, in a very short amount of time, I have lined up my stripes all the way across the fuselage. Now, notice there's nothing on the other side. Okay? If I was smart, when I first started this process, I would have come down here to Symmetry, and I would have turned on the X, and that would have gotten me stripes across everything. So if, on both sides. So if I go back to layout, I grab a hold of my fuselage, and I go back into texture paint, and if I start out here again, right about there, let's say, and I'll go across to here. Okay, now if I turn around, it didn't work. Alright, let's go back to layout. I'm selected on the fuselage. Go back into texture paint. Go back to Symmetry. Click on the X. Bring this back over. Click. And boom. Even I have problems. Okay. It should be. Yeah, there it is. Now it worked. Some things just don't work when you need them to. I'm going to hit 3 again, and I want to come over here and grab this guy and come across, go back, and there it is. So it's putting it in the exact same spot on both sides of the fuselage. Now, let me come back over to here for a minute. I need to turn off so that you don't see the UVs. This is the texture plate that you would see if you were doing this in 2D inside of inside of a 2D program. I don't even see the cowling on this plate. Do you? The rudder's there, and there's a stripe there, but how would you line up that stripe on the rudder from here? You'd have to cut this out, manipulate it up so that it was in place, try to get that line lined up onto the rudder, put it back into place, and then save this out and go into Flight Simulator. That's the only way that you're going to know if it's right. And open up Flight Simulator, get into a flight, get your airplane up there in the sky, and then go look at that to see if it's lined up. That's a whole lot of time. I used to do that. But what's nice about Blender is you don't have to. It's right there. It's showing you what's going on. Now, I can move over, and if you see that line is a little thin, I can add to it. I'm going to go back to layout, make sure I got my rudder selected, go back to texture paint, and I come back here a ways and just add to it. A little bit off. Control Z. Again. That's closer. Not quite, because I've got several different lines here working against me. But you see the kind of control that you can have here in lining things up. You can do it in Blender and not do it somewhere else. If I come across here, let's go down here, and I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to select some wild color here. Let's go for yellow. And I will hit the arrow keys so that it's not, there's a hotkey that allows you to switch back and forth between these two colors when you're on the fly here. But if I'm going to hit my bracket keys, comma keys, or not bracket. I'm going to get it a little bit larger, maybe between them. And then again, I'm going to draw a line. Let's go out to there. That's because I'm on the rudder. Go back to layout, click on the fuselage, go to texture paint, and let's try that again. Okay, I'm going to put that up. That's pretty good right there. Okay. Go back to stroke. I'm on line follow. There's the reason. You see how I've got a bleed out right here on this color? You couldn't see it on the black line because it's so small, but when I tried to go bigger, there's a gap in here. The reason is because there's a thing called fall off, and right here there's a curve in here, so you're probably sitting right here on this second one, so that the paint falls off like if you're shooting it through a spray gun, you get some overspray. You don't want that. So this last bracket here that looks like a staple, if you click on that, okay, there's no curve across here now. Now if I do the same thing, come out here a little bit and go across here, it's all filled in. It's a solid line. And the reason there's a gap down here is because I probably wasn't absolutely straight when I put my stripe across here. Okay. When you're done with the fuselage, now you can go back to layout. You can grab a hold of the lower cowling, go back to texture paint, and I probably don't have symmetry turned on, so let's turn the symmetry on. And I'm going to come across here and do the same thing. Notice I just got the lower half. Now, if you'll notice, I got a little bit of gap here. So it's easy to just switch back to the black. I can reduce the size of my brush. Come on, cooperate. And I could start right about here, get even with the edge, and come across here and make adjustments. Maybe that's a little bit too big. Control Z. Let's go up a little bit. That looks better. Let's see, this one could be, yeah, I'm on that. Alright, you get the idea. Now if you'll notice, when you wrap around to the other side, the front side, if I hit the 3 key, come on, I'm on the side, I'm going to hit the 1 key, and that takes me looking straight on. What I can do now is I can come up to the front here, and I still have my black selected. I can come right about here, and I could go right straight across to the other side and get my border lines right first, and then I could either just fill in a couple lines across there, or I could make my brush bigger and come across, and that's done. Same way with the other side. If I had my symmetry turned on, that would be how easy it is. Again, I switch over to yellow. I can border right on that line and come across here, and then fill this in accordingly with larger brushes. Okay? Hopefully that'll give you an idea what's possible. Now, if you look, I'm on the cowling plate, and I have the bottom cowling selected right now. If I were to go back to my layout, select the top half, and then go back into texture paint, now I could come in here and I could take care of this top part. Okay? You get the idea what's going on. And I don't have symmetry on, and that's why nothing's lining up right. I can hit my 3 key. I still have my yellow on and go across to here. Fill that in. I need to fix the black. So let's go to there. That's pretty good. Okay. Again, 3, 1. Get it up to where I can see what's going on. Come straight across. And fill that in. One more, and I might have it. That's probably close enough to what we're doing. Again, let's fill that in a little bit there. You get the idea. Now, sometimes things don't work out right. You see I went across these holes? What's happened is that paint has gone on to other parts, and see what it's done to the top here? So what you have to do sometimes is you can either go to this plate over here. I can switch back to the black. I'm going to take it all the way to white, or I will click on the white, hit the eyedropper, click on this plate so that I perfectly match that, and I'm going to set my brush to something large. It's kind of hard to see when it's over the white. I'm still on the line tool. That's why I'm getting those dotted lines across there. Okay, now that's all gone. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate my nose up and see if I lost anything. Looks like I lost a little bit, maybe, but it's right. Come on. I'm going to grab my arrow key, slide this window over, and I got a little bit right there, so I'll switch back over to yellow. And I'm on the top of the cowling, so I got to go back to layout. I got to grab the bottom of the cowling and then go back to texture paint, and that's why nothing was happening. And I'm going to click on that. We will slide over to here. I got a little spot right there. You can get up close. You can spend all day getting stuff just right down to perfect, but you get the idea, I hope, of what's happening here. If you notice, there's no doors. The doors are part of the interior of this aircraft, and that is a separate Blender template that I got set up so that you can go in and paint the doors. When it comes to the template, if I go back to the layout, click on the fuselage, and go back into my texture paint, you'll see, let me slide this guy over, and I'll bring this down. You see this black around here? That's basically the black frame of the door. You could paint on that right here, and it would probably change things for you, but most of that's going to happen right here. And these white frames, that's part of the door as well. You'll find that out when you go into the interior template and start painting on the interior of the aircraft. The only thing I have left to do to this aircraft to finish this paint job off is the top of the rudder. And so I could go into the rudder, select it, go back to my texture paint, and now something that you run into, come on, you see how the rudder's turned sideways? Sometimes you get a distortion when you have this thing on a flat plane like this. You come across this, may get it distorted because of that rudder sticking out. If I come across, say, right to about there, Control Z, let's get closer till you can see what's going on. See how the black has drooped down a little bit here, and I'm trying to get that. Okay, now that don't look too bad. What happens if I go over on this side? My symmetry's turned on, but it didn't work. What's going on? Okay. Now see, everything's changed there. So you can run into issues when you're trying to paint on stuff like that. Let's drop this down to black. And I'm sorry, not that. Yeah, I've already changed it, so it doesn't matter. Drop that down to black, and I will make this guy smaller. Try to come across here looking at it this way. There, that's better. That looks almost like it's perfectly matched up. You can't do this in Photoshop or GIMP or whatever 2D program you're using. You can't do that. What you have to do is you have to take and do all your work on this plate, and then if you want to work on the cowling, then you've taken over to this plate. There's no way that you can line all this up. You can guess where it goes. And when you're done guessing, then you have to take it into Photoshop or whatever 2D program you're working on and modify it. Now, there's 3 plates involved here. There is the fuselage texture plate, there is the lower cowling, and then if I go back to layout and then I click on the top cowling and go back, now I have a completely different. See how hard it would be to do this in a 2D program. Some aircraft, the way they're set up, you just can't do it. The X-Cub, it's not too hard. There are some distortions in the way it's laid out that you can fix, but it takes some time to going back and forth in and out of Photoshop. I'm sorry, yeah, in Flight Simulator. So hopefully this will give you an idea. I have not done any modeling. All I have used is my left mouse button to slide the screen back and forth. I have used my middle mouse button to move my 3D object around. I have used the number pad to square things up. I've used the hand over here, which there is a hotkey that you can use to do that. Move things around. This has all been mouse work. Just to give you an idea to what is possible. Now, if I'm all done painting on this, if you'll notice up here where it says image, there's an asterisk. If you don't save this file, all this goes away. Because a lot of people will go up here to file and they'll go save. It's intuitive. You're used to that on all your other programs. Blender, if it has what's called a blend file. And that blend file has all the information about the model and so forth and so on. And when you click to open this program, it goes into that blend file and sets up the model. When you save this file through this, you end up just saving that information. How this window is set up. If I change here, let's say then these icons there take you to different places. If I go down to here, you see all this shit. That gives me access to the file structure, how they're set up, what files are being used, and so forth. Each one of these windows has a different function. Now if I go back up into paint mode, and now I have my color palette, I've got what files are in use, various things, information, and a lot of this is duplicated from what's up here on this little bar right here. So there's several different places in Blender to make these changes and do things. And that's what those 2 videos will teach you, or those videos from the guys that are really good at this and show you how to set these windows up. Let's take a moment. I'm going to go back to layout and I'm going to hit the Alt-H key. Come on, Alt-H. What's wrong? I am in layout. Oh, I done something. There we go. It took it a minute, but it brought everything back. Sometimes Blender, if it's really struggling, you'll get that white frosty screen. It won't always crash on you, and hopefully it doesn't. But anyways, you see that don't look too bad. And I wasn't really gentle about making it, but now I have a stripe. This is how I did the livery for John Kruko for his aircraft. I hope I pronounced his name right. And he's got some really great videos out there on flying. He owns a real Kit Fox and flies it around doing some great videos. So anyway, this kit is set up and you have different windows. You saw me working between the layout and the texture paint. Those are the two primary windows or areas that you're going to be working on or working in to do your livery. There's a thing here called UV editing, and you see all that mess, and it's selected on that part. This is where you can separate parts. You can go into this UV drop down menu at the bottom here. It says export UVs, and there's a way to export these UVs into a template, a flat template. You'll see a lot of paint kits out there. Some of the best ones you're going to find are from Easy Rider, and there isn't anything that he's left out. If he's done a paint kit for something, everything you need to paint in 2D is going to be there. Anyways, I will close that out. I don't want to save out any UVs. And I am to the stage now where I'm starting to work in what's called a shader tree. And for some, this can be kind of scary. And you got all these blocks here with all this information in it, and then you got all these cord-looking things attached to them. That's basically how this model is put together. There's your main color setup for the aircraft, for the textures. This guy up here at the top is the master texture setup for it. And then each one of these three here deal with the shininess, or how shiny those materials are, and the roughness, meaning maybe you got some warped panels. Maybe you're working on the interior and you're working on a seat, and it's corduroy, and you want it to look like real corduroy. One of these down here will handle that in the 3D space. Another thing that you're going to be doing is setting up these windows the way that you like to use them. For instance, when I'm in the shader tree, I don't particularly need this up here. So what I'll do is I'll come up here on this black bar and I'll right click and I'll close the area. So now all I have is my shader tree. Alright, now I want to see the airplane. Where do I see the airplane? Well, I have two windows right here. I have the UV plate window, and I have all these files. Well, I don't need to access files. I need to see my airplane. So I'm going up here to the left-hand corner where it says the little file. I'm going to twirl that open, and there's all these different viewports that will show you. I want the 3D viewport. And I'm going to use my left mouse button, and I'm going to click right in between the panels, and I'm going to slide this bit over, and then I can use the middle mouse button and I can rotate my airplane down to where I can see it. Now you got all this kind of funny hair sticking out here, and there's stuff in here where you don't need to see. So what I can do is there's a little drop down menu here. There's a full square and about a half a square there, and if you twirl that open, here's all the stuff that controls what you see here. So if I open that back up, I don't want to see the floor. I don't want to see the X and Y axis markers. I don't need the 3D cursor annotations. Bones are stuff that's used to indicate 3D actions. Motion paths I don't need. I don't need origin or relation lines or all the extras, which was those little hairy looking things. Now you see I have just the plain old 3D model. I can also go up here, see where these four round globes are. That's an outline. That is what you see, the gray model. This adds all the color. And if I had a environmental application setup in here, if I clicked on this last globe, you see right now it's just wild space because I don't have anything applied. I don't know if this, there we go. So if I turn off all this stuff, if I had an HDR, what they call an HDRI in here, if I click on that, I don't know if that'll do anything for me. Let's just experiment. Nope. I don't quite remember how to get that to show up. Anyway, I get basically the same picture here as I get up here on layout. Same deal. And you see I'm still getting the shininess on the wing and on the materials. same as I'll get back here. I get that shininess on here. Only what I can do here is I can set up what's called an HDRI, which gives me an environment, like if I want a blue sky. And that would kind of give me an idea when I start messing with some of these nodes here, like on the metallic roughness, to get the reflections the way I want them to show up. You see how it's shining on that prop right there? All this would do is give me a kind of a blue sky background with maybe some clouds in it, and it would show me what the reflections are going to look like when I have this model in Flight Simulator. Anyways, I hope this will give you a general idea, the ease of what you can do in Blender. I'm going to go back to layout, and when you are watching the introductory videos on maneuvering around in space, how to move your aircraft around, how to in and out, all I'm using is the scroll button. I'm pushing down on the scroll button to move around. I'm using the left mouse button, makes me a selection window and stuff, and it does different things in different windows. Your left mouse button, I click on that wing. Right now if I hit Shift H, everything else goes away. So all I'm working on, or all I'm looking at, is that wing, that part, and then I can paint on that. If I hit Alt H, I bring everything back. You see it's all highlighted because it's all selected. I just left click off somewhere on the screen and I'm back to normal. Alright, hopefully that'll give you an idea, what you're looking for when you watch these videos, and that's what your objective is. To bring a model in, be able to view it, move it around, go in the different windows and do your painting and stuff. Hope this helps you. Adios for this one. I will continue on.